All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the incredibly intense, high-stakes world of Task Unit Bruiser. We're going to pull some universal, completely transformative leadership lessons right out of the bloody dust of Ramadi, Iraq, back in 2006. We are exploring The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And look, this isn't just a bunch of academic theory, right? These are highly actionable frameworks forged in actual combat, and they apply directly to how you lead in your own everyday life.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture J-Block, South Central Ramadi, 2006. A patrol of SEALs and Iraqi soldiers is moving down the street, and suddenly, this really eerie silence falls over the area. Like magic, every single local citizen just vanishes, and every soldier there knows exactly what that means. An attack is imminent. The hair on the back of their necks is literally standing up. And right then, over the inter-squad radio, someone just casually says, "Stand by to get some." It was delivered with the exact same calm demeanor of a flight attendant telling you to stow your tray table. Just a dark running joke to ease the tension right before all hell breaks loose.
So, it's broad daylight. They're on foot, moving down this super narrow city street, totally boxed in by high concrete walls on both sides. There is absolutely nowhere to hide. Just one parked car up ahead and some scattered trash in the dirt. The patrol is locked into a dual-column formation, hugging those walls, basically just waiting for the inevitable firefight.
And then, the world just explodes. Dozens of bullets start snapping through the air, every single one making this sharp, supersonic crack as they smash into the concrete walls inches from the patrol. Shards of concrete are flying absolutely everywhere. The incoming fire is so heavy it sounds like multiple jackhammers just chewing up the street all around them.
They had walked right into an enemy buzzsaw. Insurgent fighters are lighting them up from multiple directions with belt-fed machine guns. Think about that for a second. You're caught in a narrow street, zero cover, taking immense fire. The only thing they could possibly do to survive in that moment is immediately rely on overwhelming, devastating firepower of their own.
And well, that's where the big tough frogmen step up. These SEALs are carrying super heavy M48 and M46 machine guns, lugging hundreds of rounds of ammo over their body armor in the middle of the blistering Iraqi summer heat. Now, sometimes they had the heavy armor of M2 Bradleys and Abrams tanks to back them up, but in this specific, immediate moment on foot, within nanoseconds, those machine gunners unleash a ruthless, lethal barrage of suppressive fire right back at the enemy.
Which brings us to a totally foundational concept: cover and move. It's the absolute most basic gunfighting principle. You use overwhelming suppressive fire to eliminate the enemy or at least force them to take cover. These SEALs are standing or kneeling, firing these massive machine guns straight from the shoulder with incredible accuracy. And it works. It forces the insurgents to keep their heads down, meaning they can't accurately shoot back. That unbelievable display of firepower is literally the only thing that enables the rest of the team to maneuver safely and get off that street.
All right, so the team is scrambling toward a compound gate for safety. Leif Babin, the commander on the ground, is frantically directing traffic. He waves the absolute last man over, and then, suddenly, just feet from the safety of the concrete walls, the SEAL falls violently forward. He lands incredibly hard, completely face down in the street. Leif's heart just drops. Man down. In the middle of this deafening firefight, he fully expects to find his teammate gravely wounded.
So Leif darts over in absolute horror, only to find the SEAL lying there looking up at him and smiling. Over the roaring sound of bullets ricocheting off the walls, the guy yells, "I'm good, I tripped." Leif yells back, "Bro, I thought you got your head shot off." And they actually share a laugh right there in the middle of a war zone. It's just this instant emotional reset. Leif yanks the guy to his feet, they sprint the rest of the way into the compound, and miraculously, everyone makes it out alive.
Now, what's really interesting about this whole chaotic story is one tiny detail Leif shares. He says, "But I wasn't in charge." Wait, what? Leif was the commander of Charlie Platoon. He was the senior man on the ground. He had dreamed of being a combat leader since he was a little kid. Every single bone in his body wanted to step up, take charge, and start barking commands over the gunfire. But he held back. Why? Well, because this specific operation belonged to his junior assistant platoon commander.
And that right there is the pure essence of empowering your team. It's a huge component of decentralized command. Leif trusted his assistant officer in charge, the AOIC, to make the tactical calls, like picking out which building to strongpoint.
Instead of micromanaging or overriding his junior officer, Leif actually supported him. He stepped back, lobbed some 40mm grenades from his M203 to lay down cover, and just directed foot traffic at the gate. He led by letting his subordinate lead, proving that true authority often means knowing exactly when to let go of control so your team can actually execute.
And that is a brilliant pivot from the battlefield straight into the boardroom. Like the authors say, war is hell, but war is also an incredible teacher, a really brutal instructor. These visceral, intense, life-or-death situations just strip away all the corporate fluff, you know? They've revealed the core, unvarnished truths of human behavior and team dynamics. And the best part is, those lessons translate perfectly into universal, highly effective leadership strategies that you can apply to your business unit, your executive team, or even just your family dynamic.
So you might be wondering, what's the absolute bedrock of all this potent leadership? Well, it's not your ego. It's definitely not barking orders or having the loudest voice in the room. The foremost requirement is humility. War teaches you the absolute fragility of human life and forces a leader to really look in the mirror. Humility is the only thing that enables a leader to fully understand, appreciate, and actually admit their own shortfalls. Look, if you don't have humility, you can't assess your own vulnerabilities, you can't learn, and ultimately, you're not going to be able to adapt to changing markets or new challenges.
Which brings us right to the core thesis of the book. True application of extreme ownership, which is their famous foundational mindset, is not about extreme rigidity. It's really not about swinging the pendulum all the way to one side and just bulldozing your team. It is all about nuance. It's about finding this careful, incredibly delicate equilibrium. When people misunderstand extreme ownership, they act in extremes, and honestly, that usually backfires. Highly effective leadership is actually just a constant, deliberate balancing act. And that delicate balance is exactly what builds the dichotomy. See, leadership requires balancing opposing forces that are constantly pulling you in totally different directions. You have to be aggressive in pursuing your goals, right? But if you aren't cautious, you put your team and your company at immense risk. You have to be disciplined in your standards, but if you're too rigid, you can't adapt to an unexpected roadblock. You absolutely must be a leader, but just like we saw with Leif in the firefight, you also have to know exactly when to follow. If you impose way too much authority, your team becomes paralyzed and afraid to think for themselves. But if you provide too little, they drift with absolutely no direction. Navigating that dichotomy is literally the ultimate differentiator for winning teams. Look, no team is flawless. Perfection in business or just in life is a total illusion. What actually makes a great team is their commitment to what we can call the continuous upgrade. When they mess up, they don't try to hide it to protect their egos. They acknowledge the mistakes openly, they take total, extreme ownership of the failure, and most importantly, they make immediate corrections. By completely wiping out this culture of blame and excuses, a team drastically levels up its effectiveness with every single iteration. Over time, a team operating with that kind of radical honesty is simply going to run circles around the competition.
So let's wrap this up with a question for you. Think about your own life, your own career, your own team. In your own high-stakes battles, where is your balance? Are you leaning a little too far into one extreme? Are you holding on to way too much control or maybe providing too little direction? This dichotomy is literally everywhere. Finding that balance is easily the most difficult aspect of leadership, but it is 100% the key to winning. I really encourage you to take a hard look at your own leadership dichotomies today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.